Hello, and welcome to TCN's CloudCast, where we explore the latest trends and innovations in the contact center industry. Today, we're thrilled to have Scott Brownlee, Director of Product Training and Customer Engagement at TCN, here with us to share his expertise and insights into changes and challenges surrounding revenue cycle management in healthcare. Welcome to CloudCast, Scott. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Spencer. I just want to say thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to have this chat with you today.
Great. Well, I'm so glad, that you're here. We're really excited to have you, and I know that you're fresh off the plane, having just attended several conferences. So I'm grateful for you taking the time to join us. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about revenue cycle management, or RCM. First of all, we know that the landscape of RCM is always changing, but I wanted to ask you what recent evolutions are happening in the realm of RCM.
Okay, well, there's several things that I've seen. I'm a member of HFMA, AHAM, and also ACA International, where I am on the healthcare committee. And so we're pretty dialed into seeing what's going on and talking to a lot of both healthcare providers and then those revenue cycle management outsourcing opportunities. And what we're seeing is hospitals for a while brought things back in-house. They're starting to outsource once again to RCM organizations to handle those functions. They're having internal staffing challenges, whatever it may be. And the RCM world in itself is consolidating. Smaller RCMs are being acquired by larger RCMs to create larger and larger RCM organizations. And what that does is it adds strength to the RCM, and it also allows them to diversify some services that they may not have offered originally, but they're able to today. And aside from that, in the traditional third-party healthcare collection space, those arm recovery agencies are beginning to pivot into the RCM space and offering separate division first-party revenue cycle management services to their healthcare clients, where traditionally they were only doing bad debt recovery prior.
That's awesome, Scott. Thank you for setting the stage for what's going on in the art with RCM right now. What circumstances are creating challenges in the RCM currently?
Okay, well, on this, Spencer, there's a whole bunch going on. And the hospitals, again, a fair amount of them don't have resources and staffing. They're operating on pretty thin margins to have the staff in place to do work. So they do outsource to RCMs frequently again. But one of the things that we're seeing is an increase in insurance claim denials and then a lack of resource in combating those by denials management processes where you're appealing claims. And so that's creating some straining cash flow. The No Surprise Billing Act recently was enacted about a year ago, and there's a huge backlog of claims that are sitting there waiting for the arbitration process to whether they were actual fair charges or not fair charges. We recently, in the last year, had an extremely large data breach in healthcare that also created issues for providers being able to get paid from payers because that network was hacked into. And with that, we're seeing that the last piece is there's an increase in high deductible insurance plans for patients guarantors out there in the United States. And what that means is they have a lot more upfront out-of-pocket expense. And then they also have a higher cost share for the remaining portion. So that out-of-pocket total that the patient has to outlay is increased dramatically over the last couple of years. And then self-paid debt becomes actually a significant financial class to the healthcare organization and the RCM. And what we've seen there in the last year and a half is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau decided to step into healthcare space outside of its traditional roles of responsibility. And as they started to look into medical debt credit reporting, the three major credit reporting agencies that are out there, they kind of got together and created a step plan that would help to address what they knew was coming from the CFPB. So essentially now any medical debt that is under $500 cannot be credit reported to any of the three major credit bureaus. Uh, a reporter must wait 365 days before reporting that debt. And additionally, within that, when a debt is paid, as opposed to showing paid on the credit report as a collection item, it would end up being deleted as a trade line and no longer show up. And what we run into here is the CFPB is now looking to eliminate all medical debt credit reporting. And medical debt's unintended. Nobody has to get sick. Nobody has to get hit in the intersection by a drunk driver or have their child have cancer. I mean, it's a unique asset class without a doubt. And there's a lot of compassion that has to be there. But when it comes to credit reporting, medical debt is the largest volume of trade lines on credit reports. So by eliminating that, what happens is while that's great for the patient where it's not on their credit, but it doesn't paint a true picture of what their actual credit worthiness may be, because they could have thousands of dollars of debt that they're not paying. And then a credit grantor for a credit card, a mortgage, or an auto loan has to rely on incomplete data. And what that ultimately is going to lead to is the cost of credit will continue to increase aside from what we've seen with inflation. The availability of credit will be constricted. And in the end, that's going to hurt consumers and it's going to make things more distressed for them because those resources that they might otherwise have access to through credit, they may not be able to get. And ideally, I mean, I get it, it is medical debt, but at the end of the day, we are responsible for our debts and they should be paid. And I think that there will be a long-term negative impact if that actually happens, where all medical debt is removed from the credit bureaus.
Thank you. Wow, that's it seems like it starts off small and it starts off with almost, a good intention, and it's just the big picture that isn't being taken into consideration here.
Right. And what I'll say is I was at the HFMA National Conference at the end of June, and some of our stakeholders at ACA International co-presented with HFMA to the group there. And a lot of hospitals will say, well, we don't have our debt credit reported anyway. And that's okay. That's a business decision. But the miss of the bigger picture is if none of it can be, where a lot of your fellow facilities across the country are having their debt reported, is even if you don't credit report, you're still going to have a negative impact that comes out of this, because the message out there is, hey, right now the message is if your medical bill is under $500, you don't have to pay it because nothing can happen. And while that's not necessarily entirely accurate, the message is starting to get out, and it's one that needs to be, because if you look at a physician, a lot of their claim, when you go to the doctor, it's $150, $200 for a checkup. And those are the kind of things that those providers are going to struggle to have the opportunity to stay in business. And what concerns me is, okay, my hospital's 5, 6 miles away from me, that if I ever needed some exigent treatment, it may not be there a year from now if this continues to happen. So that's a big concern for me and for the healthcare industry at large.
Yeah, that's really concerning. What could healthcare providers and their RCM partners do to overcome these challenges or to help prevent these situations from occurring in the future?
I'll start at the healthcare provider level. If you're struggling with resources, find an RCM partner and get your accounts to them. They have a lot of tools that can help relieve a lot of burden, and it's cost effective for the facility. And it can help improve their margins. And then on that RCM side, if they're just doing things like self-pay follow-up and insurance follow-up, Add more ancillary services to your offerings to your facility partners, appointment schedules and reminders, access to follow-up, connections to the portal, make it easy for them to pay if they want to pay. A lot of those ancillary services that take up a lot of time and resources at the hospital can be done more effectively and efficiently, and at a cost savings to the facility. But what I fear is going to happen is for non-exigent services where they're not emergency room services, is you're going to start to see, especially physicians, ask for prepayment of services because they're going to be worried that they're not going to get that money on the back end through the revenue cycle and the AR process that runs along. And if credit reporting goes away, hospitals do litigate through their agencies and then subsequently the agency attorneys on accounts that warrant it. They stepped away from that because, again, unintended debt, and you're not trying to punish someone. But it may be time to construct a proper litigation strategy. And healthcare facilities may also want to get accounts from the RCM to their third-party collection agencies sooner. There's a law of diminishing returns that the older an account gets, the less likely it is to get paid. And your third-party vendors, their partners, are well equipped in customer-centric strategies that will allow the patient a dignified and pleasant experience, and they'll actively work with them to resolve the account in a manner in which the patient is able to do it. And the last thing here, I would say that the healthcare facilities may want to consider debt sale. And if they're already doing debt sale, maybe consider moving it up in the process. Because at the end of the day, if the hospitals don't recoup their revenue and the physicians don't recoup their revenue, they're going to not be able to continue to provide the same levels of care that they do now. And we're already seeing, if you read Becker's Healthcare, many hospitals are dropping certain services from their actual programs. And it's because they can't afford to do them anymore because they're not getting paid. And so I'm not trying to paint a doom and gloom picture, because running from the facility to the RCM to the third party debt collection part, even out then to litigation or debt sales, all of those pieces, they've always been there. This is nothing new. It's just more of an acceleration of timeline and leaning on partners more so that the facility can concentrate on what it does best, which is we're going to provide quality care to every single patient and take some of that stress off of what I would call administrative work in making sure that patients' accounts are followed up on properly.
I honestly appreciate your candor. I don't think it's necessarily painting a doom and gloom picture. It's showing the reality of our situation and our future if things don't change. So don't worry about that. I really appreciate it. Scott, I know that you mentioned attending the HFMA conference recently, and I was wondering if you had any takeaways from that conference about what we're talking about today.
That's such a great question, Spencer. And yes, I do. So I had mentioned that I'm involved with ACA and I'm on the healthcare committee. And we joined forces with HFMA and had a webinar prior to the national conference. And the credit reporting issue, which is a big deal in healthcare, I was very surprised to see when we had polling questions that many of the healthcare providers weren't even aware that it was an issue. So that told us at ACA, that told us at HFMA that we need to have a broader message on this. So at HFMA National Conference last month, there was a joint panel discussion on stage, on the main stage, where we had some representatives from ACA healthcare agencies, both doing first party RCM work and doing bad debt work, to highlight that. At the ACA level, being on the healthcare committee, we've also introduced, post the HFMA conference, a monthly interactive discussion called the Clinic for HFMA healthcare members, that whether they're doing first party, third party, or if they are a facility that is in our ACA organization through HFMA, or they've come in and just joined ACA. And we're discussing a whole lot of different topics there, but that first one was also a message to raise the awareness because there is still time. This is the total abolition of credit reporting of healthcare debt is not final. Those first three pieces we talked about, under 500, waiting a year, and then once it's paid, it's deleted as opposed to remaining as a paid item. Those have been in play, but the complete abolition is still going through the rulemaking process with the CFPB. There's still time to comment. So my main takeaway would be to our healthcare facilities, our physicians, our trade associations like HFMA and AHAM and ACA, the RCMs, everybody make comments on this at the CFPB website. And all of the presentations that I referenced, that we've done three of them, basically one live and then two that were kind of WebEx Zoom, there were links to how to get involved. Providers cannot afford to stay silent on this. There's too much at stake. So for me, that was the main takeaway from HFMA, and then even at ACA National that I just got back from a day or two ago.
Thank you so much. What's the best platform for us to share this message on?
I mean, always outreach. ACA is extremely active in proactive outreach. They're always putting the message out, and the membership is talking to their healthcare clients on a regular basis. Our RCM partners that we work with, they're doing the same thing. Keep pushing the message, and as we as a TCN organization make sure that we, not saying beat the horse to death, so to speak, but make sure that we ensure that our healthcare partners all are aware and that their voice counts in that flow, because there's a whole bunch of great technology, patient-centric strategies, very consumer-friendly ways, patient-friendly ways to collect amounts that are due, but the ramifications of the disinformation that is out there, um, TikTok videos, hey, you owe $499.99, don't pay your bill. Those kind of things are prevalent and they're misleading, because I will tell you, a hospital may not sue someone for $499.99, but a doctor's far more likely to, because it's way more impactful to his small or her smaller bottom line. So I would just say keep resonating the message. And if you're in HFMA, if you're in AHAM, or if you're in ACA, be active. And they all put out a lot of messaging, and they make it very easy for you to become involved and have your voice heard.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Well, I think that kind of wraps up all the questions that I have for you today. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you continue to spread the word and share this information with all of our clients in the industry, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer. It was such a pleasure to be here. And I'm always happy and actually get excited about talking about healthcare, revenue cycle management, and all of the pieces that surround that. So I'm more than willing, if you'd like, you can feel free to share my contact information here. And if anyone is listening to this has any questions or just wants to have a discussion, you can reach out and be happy to schedule some time to do so.
That sounds perfect. Yeah. Everyone who wants to reach out to Scott, you can email him at scott.brownlee@tcn.com, and he will answer all of the questions that you have.
Right. And just for clarification, my last name is spelled Brownlee.
Thanks for the clarification, Scott, and I look forward to having you on the podcast again.
Thanks, Spencer. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to TCN's CloudCast. We hope you gained valuable insights and perspectives on the ever-evolving world of call center software. Don't forget to subscribe for future episodes as we continue to explore cutting-edge trends and innovations. And once again, thank you for listening.